Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm so happy to welcome you back to the third of this four-part lecture series on the Yoga Sutra with Dr. K.S. Balasubramanian. So my name is Michael Slober, and I'm a faculty member in the Global Humanities and Religions Department. And I just wanted to share a little anecdote before I go into my list of announcements. Today, I've been immersing myself in the Silappatikaram, a famous ancient epic from South India. And it's the first book which I was reading closely today is set on the east coast of Tamil Nadu, where Dr. Balasubramanian is from. And so yeah, it's just wonderful. This book contains wonderful descriptions of the landscape and the seashore and just the beautiful culture of this region. So I'm very happy to pair that reading with this live interaction with someone from this wonderful part of India. So let's see, in a few moments, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Professor Penny Hutchinson, to introduce our speaker. But first, I'd like to start with a land acknowledgement that our university's main campus is located on the ancestral homelands of the Coast Salish peoples, particularly the Lummi and Nooksack tribes. And we want to express our deepest gratitude to our indigenous neighbors for their enduring care and protection of these lands and waterways. This lecture series was organized by the Global Humanities and Religions Department, which emphasizes interdisciplinary humanities, cultural history, and the study of religion, ancient to modern, and all around the globe, with attention to cross-cultural interaction. We would like to thank the Alumni Association for their partnership in making this happen, as well as the College of Humanities and Social Sciences, the Anthropology Department, and the College of Fine and Performing Arts. So please enter any questions that you might have as you're listening to the lecture or at the end into the Zoom Q&A feature, which should be located at the bottom center of your screen. We'll save all the questions until the final 10 minutes or so, and we'll do our best to answer as many of them as we can. So now I hand it over to Penny Hutchinson to once again introduce Dr. K.S. Balasubramanian.
Good evening, everyone. I'd just like to welcome you to our 4 sessions on the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali with Dr. K.S. Balasubramanian from Chennai. My name is Penny Hutchinson, and I'm an associate professor in dance at Western. Our esteemed guest speaker is the Deputy Director of the Kupaswamy Sastry Research Institute in Chennai, South India. He holds an MA in Sanskrit, a PhD in Hatha Yoga, and a PhD in Yoga, as well as 35 years working with postgraduate researchers. He has attended international conferences and taught in Europe and the US. He has won many awards in his studies. He has 10 books being currently published. We are so grateful to have such an eminent person to guide us. His encouragement and kindness led to my treasured studies with his colleague, Dr. T.V. Vasudeva, on the Natya Shastra, a 5,000-year-old text of music, dance, and theater. And he has opened up many new possibilities for me through his colleagues and knowledge. Thank you. Sanskrit literature shares ancient wisdom that is very applicable to today's world. I sincerely hope that others may become interested in the world of Sanskrit and find the resources to help them live in the best way possible. I would also like to give special thanks to the director of the Institute, Dr. V. Kamaswari, and fond greetings to all the people who work at the Institute who helped me in so many ways. You'll be my first stop when I'm able to travel. Thank you so much to Dr. K.S. Balasubramanian for taking time out of a hugely busy schedule to do these sessions. We appreciate you so much. May we all benefit from our time together and spread this benefit to the world. The recordings of these sessions will be available on the WWU alumni website. Thank you sincerely to all those who have helped this dream come true. Dr. Michael Slober, Dr. Kimberly Lin, Chair of Global Humanities and Religions, and Janine Bankson, Director of Western Alumni, and many others who gave us encouragement and helped us to have these talks. Please feel invited into the world of the great sage Patanjali, whose sutras have been inspiring people for thousands of years. Over to you, Dr. Balasubramanian.
Namaste. I would start with one Vedic prayer before we go into the session. This is from Yajurveda. Sarve santu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhaved. Let everyone live happily. Let everyone live without any diseases. Let everyone witness or see only auspicious or good things in life. Let no one experience pain. This is a very small prayer from Ayurveda. This shows the broad-mindedness of the ancient seers of India. Then let us offer our obeisance to the great saint Patanjali. Yogena jittasya padena vajam malam sharirasya tu vaidyakena yogakarot tam pravaram muninam Patanjalim pranjaliranatosmi. This verse is usually uttered in the beginning of the yoga sessions. This says, I salute with folded hands the great saint Patanjali, the best among the saints, who removed the defects of the mind by giving us a treatise on yoga, who removed the defects of the speech by giving us a wonderful text on grammar, and who removed the defects in the body by writing a great text on medicine, Ayurveda. So, good morning from Chennai. I am extremely thankful to all of you for your kindness, for your affection, for joining today's program, and for all the encouraging words. We should know before we start the session that we are going into a text or the words of a great saint who hailed from some part of India thousands of years ago. Though modern scholars would like to fix his date as 2nd century BC, perhaps he lived much more, 200 or 2000 years before that, as per my guru, my master, Rabbi Acharya Maharaj. We saw that Patanjali devised his entire yoga system into 4 sections called padas, literally meaning foot. So 4 sections. The first one is known as Samadhi Pada, that which described what is Samadhi, the final stage, the culmination of the yogic practice or the spiritual practice, namely complete total absorption or 100% of perfect equilibrium and balance. And in the second section, we saw what are the 5 obstacles or the afflictions and how to get rid of them. That is possible by following the 8 steps of yoga as advocated by Patanjali, namely yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. So here Patanjali enumerates all these 8 and tries to talk about each of them. For example, under yama, which means literally restraint, that which we should not indulge in, he gives 5-fold practices. In later texts on yoga, especially on Hatha yoga too, this was made into a component of 10 parts. That is, yama consisted of 10 parts. And the second one, niyama, means observances which we should do. And it consisted of 5 components according to Patanjali. And the later text added 5 more and made it 10. So these two, yama and yama, constitute the moral and ethical codes, and they are universal in value, as stated by Professor Michael in the last session. And the third one, Patanjali, called asana or posture, catering to the need of the physical health. And later on, hundreds of asanas have come into vogue, developed by the saints or the practitioners to suit their lifestyles. And Patanjali's definition of asana is just a comfortable fixed posture in which one can sit for a period of some time for doing meditation. And the fourth one, according to Patanjali, is pranayama, which means the extending the life of one's person. And ancient saints found out that as long as the vital air, prana, or the essence of the life, which we may call through the breathing of the, you may call it oxygen, but it is more than oxygen. And as long as it exists in the body, a person has the hope of living in this world. Therefore, by observing nature, certain animals and birds, which has certain breathing patterns, they thought of innovating some techniques through which one can retain the air or the vital air as long as possible inside the body. Just like the balloon can fly so long as there is air inside it, the human being can also live in this world as long as there is air or vital air in the body. Once it leaves, the life leaves. You may call it soul, you may call it spirit, you may call it the self, you may call it anything for that matter. But what matters is the vital air. Therefore, one has to preserve it, make it available as long as possible to lead a harmonious life. And by many techniques that came into vogue or into practice later on, especially during the 12th and 15th century, we have many techniques of pranayama or breathing exercises for the removal of many diseases pertaining to the body and mind. Because yoga, even according to Patanjali, as well as the later schools of Hatha yoga and other systems, gives us the benefit of the body and the mind through the practice of pranayama. So the prana or the vital air and the mind are very closely interconnected, and by having a mastery or control over the one, you will have automatically the control or mastery over the other. This is what yogic science tells us. And therefore, pranayama is one of the most important exercises or practices or yogic techniques in the field of yoga. And the fifth one, namely pratyahara, meaning how to withdraw our senses. That is, our eyes, our nose, our tongue, our ears, and the skin. They give us the knowledge of the things which are external to us. And if we are able to withdraw our sense organs from the contact of the external objects, not by closing the eyes, not by closing the ears or the nose artificially, but through some practice, if we are able to withdraw our connection, that is, if we are able to have some sort of disassociation with the object of senses, then we can have a very contented life. So here ended the second pada, chapter, section of Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. Now we are into the third section of Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. This is known as Vibhuti Pada. Now, what is Vibhuti? In common parlance, Vibhuti means, of course, it is from the Vedic time onwards, means the holy ash. Those followers of Lord Shiva, they used to have the marks in their forehead 3 stripes horizontally, or nowadays just 1 stripe horizontally, with the cow dung powder. The powder made of cow dung, and then it is heated, and the ashes, holy ashes, they are called. This is known as vibhuti. But vibhuti also means supernatural power or wealth. So says Amarakosha, the most prominent and the ancient lexicon in Sanskrit, perhaps in the world, belonging to the 6th century AD. Vibhutir bhutir aishwaryam animadigamashtadha. So vibhuti, bhuti, aishwaryam, all these are synonyms in Sanskrit, and Patanjali is going to mention many of them in the 3rd pada, which we are going to see today. At least some of them we shall see. Just to give an idea what this yogic practice can give us. It is just like inducing a person to enter into the field of yoga and opening up so many avenues, saying, if you practice this and this and this as ordained under a competent teacher, you shall get some supernatural powers. We shall see some of them. And Patanjali is also going to say that these are distractions, these are hindrances, obstacles in the path of reaching the highest or the goal of which the yoga system advocates or recommends or promises. Therefore, let us see some of them. Before the 3rd pada or the Vibhuti pada, the section on supernatural powers begins, the commentator, the most ancient commentator on Yoga Sutras, namely Vyasa, tradition says, allures that this is the same Vyasa who codified the Vedas, who wrote the Brahma Sutras, or who started the Vedanta school of philosophy, who gave us the Puranas, Mahabharata, etc. Be it as may be, but Vyasa starts writing before commenting on the 1st sutra or aphorism of the 3rd section. He says, Uktani pancha bahirangani dharana vaktavya. The 5 external practices have already been said, described. Now let us see the 6th one, namely dharana. Therefore, we understand that whatever Patanjali described in the earlier section, they pertained only to the physical or the external limbs of the yoga system. Now we are going to see something which concerns the inner world. What are the possibilities of the inner world that yoga promises us? Therefore, 1st sutra, Patanjali starts with the 6th limb of yoga, namely concentration, dharana. He says, Deshabandha chittasya dharana. Chittasya of the mind, dharana, concentration. Actually, the word dharana comes from the root dha, to hold. Therefore, holding our mind on a particular object, that is known as concentration. I am concentrating on one particular object, whether it is outside me or a concept or a truth or anything for that matter, a principle which is inside me. It may be imagination. As long as I hold my thought on it with some force, that is the difference. That is known as concentration. And why does the word Deshabandha is used by Patanjali? Desha, as all of us know, means any place. Bandha, arresting. Therefore, by arresting all other things, all other objects, if the mind is focused on only one particular object or concept or principle, that is known as concentration. I shall give you one small story just to explain what does concentration mean. In Mahabharata, in the earlier, Adi Parva, first section itself, Vyasa is narrating the story. And Drona, the preceptor of the Kauravas and Pandavas, takes all his students, the 100 Kauravas and other kings, and of course the 5 Pandavas, to a forest. And he makes an artificial board made of, some metal, and keeps it on the top of a branch of a tree. And he calls one by one and asks each prince, say, what do you see there? And the first one says, I'm able to see you. I'm able to see the tree. I'm able to see the branches, flowers, fruits. He said, okay, it's not for you. Go out. Like this, one by one, everybody is discarded by Drona. And finally, he comes to Arjuna, his favorite, disciple or the follower. And he asks him, what do you see, O Arjuna? And he says, I see only the bird. In the bird, what do you see? He says, I see only the neck or the throat of the bird. He said, are you able to see the branch? He says, no. The flowers, fruits? No, everything. Then what do you see? I see only the neck of the bird. And Drona says, shoot. And Arjuna releases the bird, and then the bird is, dispatched just in a second. So this is called concentration. Eliminating everything else other than what is required. So holding your mind on a particular object means you are consciously or unconsciously eliminating the unwanted things. Just like the sculptor would do. What does he do? He is eliminating all the unwanted things, and he arrives at what he wants to produce. Whether it is a beautiful woman or god or goddess, actually he imagines the picture, the form of the deity in his mind, and then he removes all the unwanted things, and finally the shape or the form that he wants to produce appears before him, either in the stone or in the wood or in the metal. So this is what is known as concentration. Eliminating the unwanted things, arresting the unwanted things, and then concentrating, holding your thought on only one object. In modern times, of course, we are able to concentrate only for some minutes or few seconds, and then the mind falls. We saw it in the first chapter itself, first pada itself. We'll come to it later also. So by concentration, we are forcing our mind to hold it on a particular object over a period of time. This is known as concentration. When Swami Vivekananda, the great disciple of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, visited USA for the first time, and he went to Chicago for the World Religion Conference. And we know the history. So when he was going to some place, some people were playing with putting a ball or some paper in the water, and they were trying to shoot it with the gun. And Swami Vivekananda asked them what were they doing, and he took the gun and shot at the target in the first attempt itself. And they were surprised. Swami, how could you do it? You have never handled a gun in your life. He said, I just focused. See, he said, I put my mind on it. This is known as concentration. So when we read a book also or a passage with concentration, it goes to us automatically. So that is the power of concentration. And then Patanjali goes one step ahead, and he gives the next sutra, Tatra Pratyaya Ekatanata Dhyanam. This is very famous nowadays in the world. Everybody, including physicians, advise do yoga and meditation. It is for stress management or to remove some of the physical and mental disorders. We have to spend at least 10 minutes or 15 minutes in meditating. After all, what is meditation? Dhyanam in Sanskrit. The word dhyanam comes from the root dhyai, D-H-Y-A-I, dhyai, which means to think. That's all. Dhyanam or meditation essentially is thinking. So by thinking on an object continuously, I am meditating on the object. So that is what Patanjali says. Tatra, the pratyaya, the content of the mind, any content for that matter, ekatanata, holding it on that alone, dhyana, meditation. To hold your mind on a particular object over a period of time is meditation. Not only the yogic science, but all the systems of Indian philosophy say that you shall obtain the essence of that on which you are meditating. Supposing a person is meditating over a period of long time on a particular object, he would get the essence of that object. So we can try in our life also. So the mind has such potentiality. Therefore, this is meditation. Meditation per se does not mean that one should renounce the world. Patanjali never talks of renouncing the worldly life and going into the forest and leaving away your family, friends, everybody, or cutting off your relationship with the entire external world, like the people in some groups of Buddhism as well as the Vedanta. They cut off the connection from their families, from the external world, and retire in solitude, in some place, secluded place. Patanjali never advocates such things. So he says, you can meditate wherever you are, provided you are able to hold your thought on a particular object over a period of time. But mind you, you shall get the result of what you are meditating upon. So if a great cricket player like Sunil Gavaskar says that he had been thinking of how to play the deliveries, in cricket when the ball is bowled to him. The whole night he used to think, and it made him a great player. If a person successfully becomes a great businessman, he would always be thinking for some time how to improve upon his business, whether it is Microsoft or anything for that matter. And the scientists, as Swami Vivekananda himself says, they are yogis par excellence from Europe and Western countries. And for getting the solution, they would be thinking on the same thing again and again, like Napoleon did, or Albert Einstein, or Benjamin Franklin, or anybody for that matter. They would be thinking on the same object again and again for over a period of long time, and the object appears before them, the solution appears before them all automatically. So this is the power of meditation. The difference between concentration and meditation is that in concentration, there is a sort of artificiality or force. We are forcing our mind to concentrate, whereas in meditation, it is very natural, it is very simple. Then, what is the eighth step? Called Samadhi. Patanjali says in the third sutra, Tadeva Artamatra Nirbhasam Swarupa Shunyamiva Samadhi. The same meditation becomes Samadhi, or complete absorption, when only the reality or the essence of the object alone that is focused or that remains, then it becomes Samadhi. You see, in meditation, we have the object, but in Samadhi, the object itself disappears, only the principle behind it, only the essence of the object remains. There is no more the object, and we become one with it. For example, when I go to a church, I see the beautiful picture of Jesus Christ. And if I try to bring the form of Jesus Christ, then it is meditation. But then if I remain in the principle for which Jesus Christ stands for or stood for, namely universal love or sacrifice or brotherhood, then I leave the form of Jesus Christ, because none of us have ever seen Jesus Christ, or Lord Krishna for that matter, Rama, Buddha for that matter. All what we are now seeing is somebody's imagination that Rama was like this, or Krishna was like this, Buddha was like this. Therefore, when I see a deity made of wood or stone or metal, I am seeing only the form. But when I transcend that form, then I enter into the field of reality. This is what Samadhi also means. So, to simply explain what is meditation, what is Samadhi, and one step before what is concentration, Patanjali describes all these three. But Patanjali in the next sutra gives a curious definition. Trayam ekatra samyamaha. He says all these three, namely concentration, meditation, and absorption, dharana, dhyana, samadhi, when they join together, when they are united together, it is known by a technical term called samyama. See, in the beginning of my talk, in the first series, I said, Yuj Samyamane. Yoga comes from the root Yuj Samyamane, which means restraint. So, Samyama also means restraint. But here, Patanjali uses altogether a different concept where he says the combination of concentration, meditation, and absorption or samadhi is known as Samyama. Therefore, in the whole of the third section, Vibhudipada, Patanjali says, if you have samyama over this and this and this, you shall get this and this and this, like that. So samyama plays an important role. First comes the concentration, then you transcend it, you go into a natural state of meditation, and then you get absorbed into it. You enter into the field of samadhi. It is not at all difficult. I can assure that it is very natural. Without our consciousness, we are also in experiencing samadhi. Of course, if there is time, I shall explain about it. And then the three put together is known as samyama. What happens when we become expert in it? When I achieve mastery over samyama, Patanjali says, Tajjayate prajnalokaha. You have the experience of consciousness. See, I am conscious of what somebody is telling me. For example, now I am talking something. You may be consciously listening to me and you will be trying to understand what I say. Some people may be consciously viewing or seeing the object or my form. But when we go beyond it, there is only consciousness. No more sound, no more form, no more objects. Only the pure consciousness remains. That is possible when we get mastery over samyama. This is what Patanjali says. And then Patanjali also says that these three, namely concentration, meditation, and samadhi or absorption, these are internal, they are subtler compared to the first five. He says, these three, Trayam Antarangam Purvebhyaha. The first five, Purvebhyaha, the previous ones, namely Yamana Yamasana Pranayama Pratyahara, what have been described in the previous section, these are external, and compared to these five, the three, namely concentration, meditation, and absorption, these are internal. And Patanjali also says one is subtler than the other. For example, meditation is subtler than concentration, and samadhi or absorption is subtler than the meditation. That's what Patanjali also says. But all these three, Patanjali says, they are also external when compared to the ultimate, namely Nirbija Samadhi, the Samadhi, total absorption, where there is even no seed of germination. Therefore, you see, imagine a concentric, circles. There are many circles. So the external circle is there. When compared to the internal circle or inner circle, that is external. And then draw another inner circle like that, each inner circle is subtler than the previous one. Finally, you arrive at a point or the center, where there is nothing. Because even center is a circle in mathematics, because it is 360 degrees, just like a circle. So if we are able to go on dissecting the circle also, you will find subtler and subtler and subtler circles. Ultimately, there comes a stage where we cannot split further, where we cannot peep further, where we cannot go further. It stops. Therefore, that state where there is a state of no return, that is known as Nirbija, without any seed, complete or total absorption. That is the subtlest that one should aspire for, according to Patanjali. Now, Patanjali says, why should we do all these things? What happens when we have we are indulging in the constant practice of this continuous flow of the consciousness. Patanjali says we get absolute peace, complete peace, for which people are spending so much of money to do research. Peace can be brought by artificial means. Some tablets, some injection, some medicine, pethidine or whatever it is, some go to the alcohol and then you have a good sleep. But it is a temporary one, it is an artificial one. Whereas without spending any dollar or any penny, we can attain peace by following these techniques. That is what Patanjali says. And then what happens is Patanjali is conscious. He knows that it is not very easy for all the people. The mind rises up, mind falls down. The mind goes and it falls down. It oscillates, it wanders. Therefore, Patanjali says, accordingly, either the mind has got the knowledge or consciousness of everything that is put before a person, or the mind has the potentiality to peep into one particular object, what we call the all-pointedness and one-pointedness or single-pointedness, and that is possible by observing our mind closely. That is what Patanjali says. And then by observing the states of the mind, Patanjali says one can have the knowledge of the past and the future. Atita anagata jnanam. So Patanjali talks about the different, transformations that the mind may undergo, and going beyond all these things, one gets the knowledge of the past and the present. This is how great saints are able to predict our future, or they are able to read our past also. Therefore, Patanjali gives that exercise to us. And Patanjali, there is another curious thing. I may be, will I be able to understand the language of all the species of this world? Patanjali gives one particular sutra for it. It's very interesting. You see, when I say dog or when I say cow, what do we understand? There are three components in it. So, sorry, I'm not confusing. Please listen to this carefully. When I say dog, for example, the word is different. Dog is a word consisting of 3 syllables. D-O-G, dog. And the word has a meaning. Every word should have a meaning. So dog means something. Therefore, there is a word and there is a meaning. And mere meaning is not enough. It should signify something that is the object. So dog means an animal with some specific or with some specifications. It is different from cow, buffalo, or peacock or something like that. It is a separate, class by itself. Therefore, the word is there, the meaning of the word is there, and the object which the word signifies, it is also there. Therefore, when a person does samyama or completely absorbed, concentrates on these 3 things separately, but we are not able to do. The moment I say dog, you are able to imagine the animal dog, either in black color or white color or brown color or mixed color, but the person who is able to distinguish the word, the meaning and the object separately and is able to concentrate on each of them over a period of long time, Patanjali says he gets the knowledge of the language or the sounds made by each of the species. It is not impossible. In our literature, we find King Vikramaditya had this capacity to understand what the animals spoke or communicated with each other, and birds communicated with each other. Therefore, he became very wise and he was able to ward off many of the dangers in his life. And in English, we read about King Solomon, who had this capacity also, and he was able to listen to the communication between the ants, one ant telling the others which were following, if the king is coming with a great army, all of us would be stamped dead. When King Solomon heard this, by some supernatural power, He stopped all the army. He waited for all the ants to cross the road, and then he went on. He marched ahead. That is the greatness of King Solomon also. So such things are possible. Is it possible to read the mind of the other person? That is also very important. No? So Patanjali says, pratyayasya parachitta jnanam. Supposing I am able to comprehend what is there in your mind, the object, you are closing your eyes or you are thinking of something, and I can concentrate on it and then get to know of the object that on which you are concentrating. Supposing I am giving a meditation session to somebody, it has happened to me hundreds and hundreds of times, and then somebody would be actually not meditating on the divine. They would be meditating on the cat or something else, who knows, and it comes to me naturally. It has happened, I am not joking, it has happened hundreds and hundreds of times. I think it happens to many of us also. Patanjali cautions, you may be able to have the knowledge or the comprehension of the object that is there in the mind of the other person, but you will not be able to know the intention behind it. It's very simple. Supposing I see the mind of another person, I find an object, let us say a flower. That's all I can do. But I will not be able to know the intention of the person who has the thought of flower in his heart, in his mind. For example, he would be thinking of the flower to give it to some beloved or his lover, or he has the flower to be offered to divinity, or he has the flower and just in the garden he may be appreciating the flower. So many intentions are possible. So Patanjali very clearly says the intention will not be revealed to you, only the object will be revealed to you. Therefore, Patanjali gives so many options. Another wonderful options Patanjali gives is you can cut off the connection between the sense organ of that person and yourself. For example, just now we are muting ourselves, form and other things. I am not able to see you. In the same way, in the physical world, I can cut off. How does the perception take place? The sense organs, the eyes, the nose, the tongue, the ears, and the skin. They report to us about the object of the external world. Supposing they are not able to have a contact with the external world, then I don't know what is there in the external world. Supposing I close my eyes, I don't know what is before me. But even with eyes wide open, a person can disappear from the view of another person. The great saints have done it. So I will be voluntarily able to cut off the contact between myself and another person, and for that person I will not appear or I will not exist before him. Therefore, in our literature, especially in our epics and Puranas, which we call the myths, we have hundreds and hundreds of experiences. The saints or God appearing before that person, and then after fulfilling the desires or granting some boons or blessing the devotee with certain things, the gods or the saints disappear from the scene just like that. So what happens is they are able to cut off the contact between the sense organ of that person and their own self. Therefore, that is also possible. And now, Patanjali says there is another method by which you can know about the death, before coming death. Of course, such techniques should not be revealed. So Patanjali just stops at it. And there are some portents, some omens by which we can know what is going to happen. We have got a lot of superstitions. We call them superstitions also. In India, there is, no dearth for it. You have got hundreds and hundreds of superstitions, even for the so-called, atheist or the so-called people who are reformists or something. Everybody has some superstition. And then Patanjali says, there are certain omens or portents which can give us a knowledge of what things are going to happen, of the events that are going to happen. And that is also possible by concentrating on certain things. Then Patanjali says, after all, I need strength to exist in this world, to have mastery over others. So Patanjali says, sorry, Maityadishu balani. If a person concentrates on the concepts or the principles of friendship, etc., then he will get great strength. For example, what of the strength I can get? So he says, Baleshu Hasti Baladini. If I am able to concentrate on strength, leave alone the object, only the principle, the strength, I will get the strength of elephant, etc. So such things are possible by concentrating on strength. If you want, something else, take the essence of it and then concentrate, you shall get it. Therefore, Patanjali gives the example. Now, what about the visible objects? So Patanjali says, Bhuvanajnanam Surya Samyamat. If I am able to concentrate on Surya or the sun god, S-U-N, sun, then I get the knowledge of the entire universe. Bhuvana means the entire world. So the constellation of all the planets and stars and everything, the entire world, what is below the world, what is above the world, what is across the world, everything will be revealed to me if I gain mastery in my meditation or concentration or absorption on the sun, S-U-N, sun. And then what about if the knowledge of the stars? So Patanjali says, Chandre Tara Vyuha Jnanam. If I concentrate, if I get absorbed in the moon, you see in Sanskrit literature, moon is said to be the king of all the stars. Taranam Bhushanam Chandraha, like that. So the moon is the ornament of all the stars. Obviously, because in the night we are able to see only the moon and not the stars, because they are, remaining in a very far off place. But moon is very near to us comparatively, the nearest celestial body. Therefore, we get light, cool breeze from the moon. Therefore, the moon, if we concentrate on the moon, we are able to get the knowledge of all these stars. Can I get the knowledge of the movement of the stars without observing them through telescope or powerful telescopes? Patanjali says, yes, you can do it by remaining in your house itself. He says, Dhruve Daddati Jnanam. Of all the stars, it is one star which remains in particular place itself. It does not move at all. It is stationary, firm, and that is the pole star, Dhruva. Therefore, it is known as Dhruva. In Sanskrit Dhruva means firmness, fixed. Therefore, Dhruve, when I concentrate on Dhruva, the pole star, Tadgati Jnanam, the movement of these stars, I am able to get the knowledge of them. Therefore, Patanjali says, okay, it is good to know about the external object. What about something inside my body? Patanjali says that is also possible. He gives an interesting sutra, few sutras. Nabhichakre kaya vyuha jnanam. Now we go to MT scan and other things, to get to know about what is there inside the body. So Patanjali gives a very simple solution to it. He says, Nabhichakre, there is a chakra or a wheel, it is all, psychological or, it is a subtle body where there is a wheel. In later literature, it has been described by Yajnavalkya and others. That wheel consists of 12 spokes and it is known as Nabhi Chakra. Nabhi in Sanskrit means the navel region. In the belly, the navel region, there is a wheel consisting of 12 spokes. If one concentrates on it, then he would get the knowledge of the constitution of the body. So we can just concentrate and get to know what are the parts of your body and where something, is blocking or there is some disease and all that. It is quite possible. I have done it myself, but I can't reveal so many things, these are all too personal. Nabhi Chakre Kaya Vyuha Jnanam. The lateral literature also in yoga, this has been described as the point of origin of Kundalini or all the nadis or the tubular vessels which carry the blood and the vital air through the body. So this is also possible according to Patanjali. Then he says, Kantakupe Chutpipasa Nivrittihi. By having samyama or deep concentration on the pit of the throat, literally it means the well, W-E-L-L. Kupa means well. So if you are able to concentrate on the ula, the pit in the throat region, then you can conquer the thirst and hunger. This is very useful for all of us. When I am thirsty, I can come out of it. I have tried it so many times. It helps, and also hunger. When in Ramayana we read that Vishwamitra was taking Rama and Lakshmana in the forest. Naturally, they won't get much food, and he taught them this technique with a mantra called Bala Adibala, and they were able to conquer their thirst and hunger by practicing this. We come to know from the Ramayana. And then Patanjali says, Kurmanadyam Stairyam. There is a particular nerve center below the throat region, and according to the commentators, it is there in the chest region in the form of a tortoise. When I concentrate on that, then my body becomes firm, fixed. Because the tortoise can remain in the place in a very firm or fixed manner. Therefore, if I concentrate myself, my thoughts on that, I will be very firm. This is what Patanjali says. And then, Hridaye Chitta Samvite. This is very, very important. Before that, I will go to the other sutra. Murdha Jyodishu, Jyotishi Siddha Darshanam. Murdha means the crown of the head, the topmost part of the head. And then there is some sort of brightness there. In Hatha Yogic terminology, it is known as Sahasra Dala Kamala. There is a lotus-like object there in the subtle body consisting of 1,000 petals, and it is very luminous. Of course, in Buddhism, we find they have some sutras like Om Mani Padme Hum and all that. So they also describe that. You can see in some of the Vajrachara or even Buddhist pictures, there is the lotus facing downwards with 1,000 petals. So it is full of luminosity or effulgence or brilliance. By concentrating on that, we get the vision of great saints. Great saints are called siddhas, even in Tamil literature. So we can have the glimpse of the vision of the great saint, whether it is Jesus Christ or Prophet Muhammad or any great saint for that matter. When we concentrate on this for over a period of time, we will be blessed with the vision of the great saints. That is what Patanjali says. Then he talks about the heart, which is very important. Hridaye Chitta Samvite. If you meditate in your heart, you will get the mastery over your mind. Therefore, heart plays an important role. Why should one meditate in the heart? All our Upanishads, in the Vedas, in Bhagavad Gita, also Lord Krishna says, Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Hriddeshe Tulatishthati. O Arjuna, the Lord of the entire universe remains in your heart. In Sanskrit, the word heart is used with 3 syllables, Hridaya. So it means, Hri means Harati, it attracts. So it attracts all the blood. It draws the blood towards it. The dhati, it sustains, it bears all the blood. And then yachati, it disposes, it sends away the purified blood to all parts of the body. Therefore, heart is the pumping station which sends the purified blood to all the parts of the body. Hridayam means in Ayurveda also it is said, Hridi, that is the 7th case, locative case in Sanskrit grammar. Professor Michael knows about it very well. In the heart, I am, he exists. Therefore, it is known as Hridayam. Why it is called heart? Because he exists. The Purusha, the self, the soul, God. Because he exists, in Sanskrit, it is known as Hrid or Hridayam. Therefore, Patanjali says, if you concentrate on it, if you meditate on the heart, because Babuji Maharaj, the founder of the heartfulness system, said, heart is the field for the mind to function. Therefore, heart is also the seat for emotions, the seat of divine, existence. Therefore, it is always better to meditate in the heart. So Patanjali also recommends that if we meditate in the heart, we get the complete control or mastery over the mind. And then Patanjali says, Udana Jayati. You see, in yogic parlance, there are 5, vital airs. The same vital air prana takes different names according to different functions. Prana, apana, udana, samana, and vyana. Each one is given different functions in yogic literature. Patanjali talks about pranayama. Prana he already talked about in the second chapter. Here he talks about two or three things. On udana, ud is a prefix which means to go up. So when I concentrate on the udana, the air which goes up in my body from the heart towards the head region, then I can levitate and I can remain without being affected by the turns, by the sand or the mud, and I need not touch the floor at all. I can just float, levitate, and also I can choose the time of my death. Icha maranam, as they say in the commentary, I can choose the time of my death. And what about another air called samana, that which resides in the navel region, what we call the gastric fire is kindled by it. So Patanjali is conscious of it. He says, samana jayati jwalanam. Some of the modern scholars have said, if you concentrate on that particular region or the air that resides in the navel region, you become brilliant. It is not so. Jwalanam here means the glow or the kindling of the fire in the navel region, that is the gastric fire. Therefore, Patanjali gives all such things. But Patanjali cautions, finally, he says, all these things, you can have everything for that matter, but yet these are all distractions. Don't go for such miraculous powers. They may take you away from the goal. For example, if I want to go from Chennai to Delhi by train, I have to pass through so many stations. If I get lost by distraction of the scenery, beautiful scenery on the way, then I am lost. I may not reach my destination. So Patanjali says, you have to be cautious. Don't give room for any distraction. Reach the destination, for which Patanjali says, viveka or discrimination is essential. After all, discrimination is between vice and virtue, good and bad, what is eternal and non-eternal. But essentially, it is what is necessary and what is not necessary. Therefore, he was known as Swami Vivekananda. He attained the bliss through discrimination. So Patanjali is going to talk about discrimination and the final goal of yoga in the next pada. So the third pada, it is just like giving chocolates to the kindergarten children by saying that these things or all these avenues are possible by following different yogic techniques. But Patanjali is wise enough to caution us that we should not be distracted by all these things that come to us during our pursuit of yogic excellence. Therefore, the third pada ends here with a note that our aim is to reach the ultimate or a complete, 100% peace and tranquility, where there is absolutely the balance and equilibrium as it existed before the creation took place. So this, in short, is the third pada or Vibhuti pada of yoga. Now I thank each one of you individually for listening to this talk of mine with patience, and thank you for this opportunity, Dr. Penny and your colleagues. I am immensely grateful to all of you for making it possible. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you very much. I lost track of time because I was so concentrated on what you were saying. It was so fascinating. But we should take a few minutes for questions. I haven't seen any so far in the Zoom chat. I wanted to make some comments about just, the topic of supernatural powers. Nowadays, people tend to think of this as, you either believe in everything or you believe in nothing. Like, they think that you should, a lot of scientists say you shouldn't believe in that it's all just superstition. And then a lot of people that are believers say, I believe in all of it. I think it's important to find like a mix of those attitudes, because I think that there are a lot of people out there that try to trick people. But at the same time, there's a lot of experiences that people have all over the world and in every religion that seem very similar. Like you're talking about mind reading and levitating and superhuman strength and knowledge of remote events. These are things that people describe happening to them all over the world throughout time. So, I don't think that we should believe everything, but at the same time, I think that we should keep an open mind. That's the way that I look at it.
Thank you. My master used to say, I never believe anything, I never disbelieve anything, unless I experience that. Therefore, yoga is an experiential science. But we have quacks in every field. So that brings a disreputation or bad reputation to anything for that matter. Even in the field of medicine or even in the field of anything for that matter, there are always quacks. But it remains that we should ourselves experience these things before coming into a conclusion, because yoga is an experiential science.
And I thought of one example, the strength of an elephant. I thought of cases that are, very well documented of like if a child gets trapped under a car or a heavy object, sometimes someone nearby, especially, that one of the parents can lift it, like they can lift a whole car up, thousands of pounds. And in no other circumstance would they be able to do that, because they need to do it. There's some kind of power that comes into the body and can do it. So it's amazing.
No, but the difference is that it appears, the strength that you are talking appears there for that moment because of the willpower of that person to save the child, or, in the battlefield or anything for that matter. It is said even the deer, if it wants to save the young one from the lion or something, it goes to fight against that. Or the chicken, it has to be saved from the vulture. The mother tries to fight against it, but it knows it cannot. But it uses its willpower to fight. But what Patanjali says is it will remain permanent if you do that.
Let's see. So does anyone have any questions? Please go ahead and ask them now if you have any. I really appreciated your examples of the different kings like Vikramaditya and Solomon, and the way that they had knowledge of animals. I thought those were neat stories. I took a lot of notes here. At one point you said that the deity is just somebody's imagination. And I think that maybe we should nuance that a little bit by saying that, I studied tantric texts. And so in the tantric text, the description of the god or goddess is very important and very detailed. And the idea is that it's like an inspired vision that a yogi had in one of these states of concentration. So I think sometimes it depends on the inspiration of the artist, because if it's just an artist that's just doing something to make money, then maybe they're just reproducing, and it doesn't really come from a real place. But it's possible also that a work of art isn't just somebody's imagination, but is coming from some kind of inspired place.
In the Vedas, we have a lot of Sahasrasesha, Purusha, Sahasraksha, Sahasra, like that. There are so many descriptions. Even Indra drank 40,000 lakes of alcohol or liquor. Whether it is possible for a person to drink 40,000 lakes of liquor. So these are all what we call exaggeration, Arthavada in Vedas.
Sure.
We have different things like Nishedha, Vidhi, Arthavada, like that. So when I want to praise somebody, for example, Dr. Michael, for example, we take your example. I can go to the extent of saying he is the best Sanskrit scholar in the world today. He knows everything like that. These are all the exaggeration, So even in our literature, there are exaggeration. But when we go to Ramakrishna Parahamsa, it is said he was able to visualize Mother Kali every time. But she appeared to him in a different form. So for each one, depending on our faith, Patanjali also talks about it. Depending on our faith and application, the divinity appears in different forms. That doesn't mean that it has got a particular form or something like that.
Yeah, so it's not only the person who creates the image, but it's also
Exactly.
the state of mind of the viewer. Yeah, I like that.
So after all, Patanjali says, Ishtadevata, by having your own God, favorite God, you can concentrate on that and your mind will become peace. One of the sutras Patanjali says.
Okay, well, I guess we better wrap it up for this evening. Unless Penny, do you have anything to add?
Well, I was just thinking about the very beginning where you were talking about, the idea of that it's this removal of things from the object that you were meditating on. That was really, it's so interesting how clear the Sanskrit, it really helps you clarify things that, okay, we can talk about having an object, meditating on it, but this idea of that it's not this and not that, and your stories, that was really helpful to me. I find it really helpful and clarifying for being someone who's interested in meditation. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, yeah, I want to thank everyone, especially Dr. K.S. Balasubramanian. I want to thank the Alumni Association, Janine Benson in particular, for helping us and for this partnership. And we'd like to thank everyone who supported this lecture series so far. Again, we have one more next week, particularly the Global Humanities and Religions Department and the other bodies on campus that helped out to support this. So yeah, as Penny said at the beginning, the recordings of each lecture will be posted to the Alumni Association website within a few days. And we look forward to welcoming you back next week at the same time for the final lecture on the fourth section of the Yoga Sutra. So thank you so much, and everyone have a great day and evening.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Balasubramanian.
Thank you.